it has started. So I want to say I'm Tom Hogan, the coordinator of the Milwaukie Poetry Series. And on behalf of the Milwaukie Poetry Series, I want to welcome you all to this open mic reading tonight. As we know, this is National Poetry Month. And before I say a little bit about National Poetry Month, I want to do some thanks. And the thanks are to the city of Milwaukie for their support. We're in our 14th season, and they have been supportive right from the start. Secondly, to the Letting Library, because we have been a committee of the Letting Library. And thanks to the Letting Library for their support. And finally, to the Milwaukie Poetry Series Committee. So we have an active committee, and as you know, and I say regularly, you don't have something happen unless you have people who are working on it. So really a big thanks to the Milwaukie Poetry Series Committee. So we know this is National Poetry Month, and this was launched by the Academy of American Poets in April 1996. And they have, so it's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. And they have a variety of things that they do. And just let me check, how many of you know about the Academy of American Poets? And how many of us are members? A few of us know about it? Okay. Well, if you don't know anything about the Academy of American Poets, go on the website and take a look at the things that they do. One of the big things is celebrating National Poetry Month. And one of the ways to do that is a poem a day series. And this has been curated by the poet laureate Joy Harjo. And here's what she has to say. I'm honored to curate poems a day during the month of April. During these uncertain times when we are distant from one another, may these poems remind us that we are all undeniably connected. This is the power of poetry. And Jennifer Benka, who is the executive director of the the Academy of American Poets, in thanking her, said, reading a poem every morning can be a calm and centering practice. We hope that in this unprecedented moment, poetry will help guide us through. And we're especially grateful to Joy for curating a powerful month of reading. So that's the Poem a Day program, and certainly one of the ways for us to celebrate National Poetry Month. And finally, before we start reading our poems, I want to share one thing that from Joy Harjo, who I certainly resonate with the many of the things that I hear her say. And this is something she said about writing. I feel strongly that I have a responsibility to all the sources that I am, to all past and future ancestors, to my home country, to all places that I touch down on and that are myself, to all voices, all women, all of my tribe, all people, all earth, and beyond that to all beginnings and endings. In a strange kind of sense, writing frees me to believe in myself, to be able to speak, to have a voice because I have to. It is my survival. And certainly very articulately and well said, I thought. So our theme tonight is poetry and National Poetry Month, but that's just a suggested theme. You don't have to read poems about poetry, but why don't we start, and if we could, with Jan. And if I could start with if I went on my screen, that would be Jan, Marilee, Shelley, Teal, Michael, Ingrid, Carolyn, and me. If that's okay with everybody.
Do you want me to read?
Oh, and Jane, sorry. Jane's gonna read after Jan. Why doesn't Jane read second and then I'll read last?
Oh.
Okay. So let's does that sound fine? So Jan would be starting, and then Jane, and then Marilee. And let's welcome our first poet of the evening.
Can you hear? Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're gonna,
I'm gonna. Oh, should I go ahead? Oh, now you're muted. Oh, I see. You're all muted. Oh, I get it. Okay. I'm going to read from my poetry book. It just came out. It's on Amazon. It's called In Living Color. And this is it. That's my painting. Okay. The first one I'll read is called Family Tree. There are things that trees can do, and then there are things that they cannot. They can allow us to fall in love with them, which is something useful for those of us with dead families. My little brother died in a car wreck. I planted a peach tree. Peaches remind me of his skin when he was younger than acne. Like brother, his tree began short, then became tall and bore fruit. Mother passed at 104 years. I gave her the limbs of an Avondale, creating excessive shade. Her tree was planted root-bound, but she blossomed well, bright pink that mirrored her flamboyant journey. I searched for a father tree. He was a good doctor and died at 54. Trees are not generally as quiet as he was, but I found a handsome dogwood. For my deck, I wake, step outside. Each morning, the three of them are there. Tommy, waving 12 feet high, mother's wardrobe, deeply verdant. I lean on the railing, unable to stretch as far as father. His leaves are tinged a sickly pallor. I called the garden shop. They said if he died, they would replace him. I said, no, not again. Thank you. And this one is called Our Enemies. I struggle to view my enemies as children. I see the tally of their blinded paths and wonder who has blinded them. What sharp rhetoric skewed their vision? What ache persuades them now to grasp remarkable lies? Birthed in a bright spray of stars, how easily they embrace the fading light. How now numb they seize at apparitions, gangrene prophecy, the rotten mirage. Theirs is a universe of bad verse. Reason cannot travel that far. What made them abandon thought? Who is this ancient, this enemy, this child? Thank you.
thank you very much, Jan. Congratulations on your book.
Thank
too.
you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
It is.
Yeah, very much. So our next reader is my lovely wife, Jane.
Well, I'm reading poems that have a long history, poems that I've loved and listened to when I was much younger than I am at the moment. The first one is Emily Dickinson's poem, I Taste a Liquor Never Brewed. I taste a liquor never brewed from tankards scooped in pearl. Not all the vats upon the Rhine yield such an alcohol. Inebriate of air, my debauchee of dew, reeling through endless summer days from inns of molten blue. When landlords turn the drunken bee out of the foxglove's door, when butterflies renounce their drams, I shall but drink the more. Till seraphs swing their snowy hats and saints to windows run to see the little tippler leaning against the sun. I tend to dance and speak poems at the same time. This is another one of my favorites, Wordsworth. And this season, of course, you'll know why. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the waves that shine, they twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in a never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw at a glance tossing their heads in springly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. Then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Thank you.
We saw some daffodils come up, and we both said, we've got to get Wordsworth's poem about daffodils out. And so it was very fortuitous. Merrily.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jan and Jane. I enjoyed both of those readings very much. I selected two of my poems in honor of National Poetry Month. I decided to read a couple of poems about the creative process and about poetry itself. And the first one is called On Goal Setting. My thoughts take flight on gauzy wings, rising on an updraft, catching on twigs and branches, then settling softly upon the grass to luxuriate in the sunlight. My imagination tumbles along the lane like a swirl of autumn leaves rising in a whirlwind of ideas, spinning out of control on a verdant lawn. Then in a desolation of time, it ruefully comes to rest in a sheltered corner, untouched, unseen by the public eye. My psyche rises on a thermal breeze, clinging to a gossamer strand to soar above the trees, leaving earthbound rationale far below. I cannot be bound by staid convention. I cannot be harnessed by your will. These thoughts it sends back to me, defiant of my wish to bring focus to my goals. Then go, free spirit, I answer. Do what you will. If I can't lure you to earth with visions of literary success, with daydreams of acclaim and recognition, your appetite for acknowledgement must be sated with self-satisfaction, with sketches that will never be painted and designs that will never be realized. If you can't come to earth to reconcile body to soul, illusion to art, ideas to words, then please cast down to me that strand of gossamer you ride. Let it lift me bodily to the heavens, so my skin, senses, and sinew might also learn to relish the freedom of that wild flight that you seem to value above all else, to the detriment of all my earthbound goals and aspirations. And the second one is a sonnet, because I love sonnets. I'm not sure they're as popular as they used to be, but this is my favorite form, and I love putting it together kind of like a puzzle. This one is called Clean and Pure. There's something of a page when fresh and clear that begs a certain order to my thoughts. And such unblemished face I could not smear with all the cross-outs usually my lot. The words that soldiered willful toward the page, on seeing it then lay down their arms, and died there too, an active, seething rage, when it was faced with gentle, soothing charms. A page with ordered lines belies its goal to give disordered thoughts their final form. Yet there more readily I bear my soul, as many drafts of verse become my norm. Can unlined page inspire a poem so pure to spring like Venus from my pen mature? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marilee, for your poems about writing and poetry for National Poetry Month. Next, we've got Shelley, Teal, and Michael.
Okay. I'm going to read a poem called What Follows Breakage. Was out of the blue nominated for a pushcart prize. The red glass flower on the metal stem broke, and I whacked the ottoman with the 3-foot stem, and that was the beginning. The sunflower seeds and the bird feeder disappeared, along with the chickadees and the Townsend warblers. The hummingbird shunned their sugar water. The squirrel ate the suet that was for the bush tits. The plank newly replaced in the deck fell through, and the windows steamed over in the cold. The Julia Child's rose that had been elegant grew limp and wouldn't bloom. The hour and minute hands on the kitchen clock locked together and refused to move. The yellow engine light on the dashboard came on. The ferry engines died, and the boat had to be towed to the dock with 53 cars on board. The Buddha's expression changed. And the second poem is one from a little chapbook that Finishing Line Press has accepted to put in print. It's called Nightcrawlers, a spring poem. They love sex in the spring grass. Just a year after the '51 flood, the yards were full of them every night. Hermaphrodite lovers locked together, almost invisible in the silt, shining back at my amber filtered flashlight beam. A bait station boy, I hold down pair after pair till they both relaxed, came loose from their grip underground, and I could drop them into a can. I picked up gallons that way, transferring them to new dirt in the back of the car where they came 40 miles in just to pick them up and sell them for bait. I marveled at the number that stayed coupled tight as I dropped them into the can with others, their translucent blue shining. On my knees in strangers' yards by night, I learned the way desire, like water, rises from the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Congratulations on the postcard.
Oh, thank you.
And also the acceptance.
Yeah.
This is the second poem. So congrats. Do you know when that's going to be out?
No, it'll be a while. I didn't sign the contract very long ago. It'll probably be a year.
Okay. You'll let us know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a shameless self-advertisement somewhere.
Well, good. I hope so. Teal?
You know, we have to advertise ourselves because no one's going to do it for us. Tom, thank you for reading the quote from Joy Harjo. I know there's been times in the last 12 months when I felt like writing was the only thing keeping me alive. So this poem is for the daffodil fans. It's titled Green Thumbs. The daffodils emerge in emerald clumps of blunted spears, as though some underground republic senate gathered raising thumbs to judge. Persephone, asphodel crowned, but prisoner of her husband's taste for gloom, was freed with just this gesture. So were these the daffodils that Wordsworth saw in bloom, fluttering and dancing in the breeze? These are not flowers, only stubborn shoots that brave late snow and unexpected frost, that promise in the tongue of saintly mutes the springtime dance of Wordsworth's golden host. These are the senators who judge between winter and spring with upturned thumbs of green. And then the other poem I'm going to read. When I was a child, I lived in the tropics, and among other things, we were vaccinated against smallpox. So this poem is about my smallpox vaccination scar. It's the size of a dress shirt button. It's round and dimpled like a pond with rain falling. Sharp points fixed to a metal disc kiss the skin of my upper arm the way that raindrops kiss water and merge with it. Dead bits of virus merged with me, taught my body how they look and smell. The way raindrops teach a pond about the sky, the clouds, bring scent and flavor from distant seas. The way raindrops make a pond bigger, the way they make it stronger.
Thank you very much, Teal. And we've had two people join us while you were reading. So Aaron Clay is here. Hi, Aaron. And I just asked to unmute you,
Oh,
but we're muting ourselves while everybody reads. So
hello.
hello. Glad you could be here.
Thank you.
And Clara. And did Clara hear about it from you, Aaron?
No, I did invite a friend though, Shannon, if she drops in. So
Okay. All right. Well, welcome, Clara. So we're reading two poems, and we're in our first round, and we're reading across in order across my screen. And so Michael is next, and then Ingrid, and then Carolyn, and then you. And then I'll read after you.
okay.
So let's welcome our next poet, Michael Shine.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be with you folks. Not too long ago, we moved to Portland, so I guess we're local now. Really, actually quite close to Milwaukee, but not quite in Milwaukee. And I had my second COVID shot this morning, so I'm a little woozy, but I think I can read. So in accordance with the theme, I'll pick this poem called Can Poetry Matter? Without apology to Dana Joya, who wrote that article some time ago. Can poetry matter like stone or flesh? Will it bleed or slip flush into walls, unscrew and screw light bulbs, midwife a fresh paradigm, slam goosebumps smack into the crotch of pimply anorexic girl boys? Will it divert floods, freeze glaciers, smooth tsunamis, gentle warlust, win a Nobel Oscar idol, untorture the tortured, torture the torturers in a paroxysm of insight, incite accountants to lose count, lawyers to drop their briefs, presidents to impeach themselves for the high crime of believing their own lies? Can poetry matter if there is no God? If caring about poetry is not caring about God? If uncertainty means that each time one person cares about poetry, God pops to the dark side of the moon? If we don't need God because God doesn't change a goddamn thing? Can poetry matter solely because we need to believe something matters? So it might as well be poetry as porn or Billie Eilish. So we have not bled for no reason, so that by writing it down, choosing numinous over luminous, we pull ourselves up by divine bootstraps, make ourselves complete, render horror numinous in a couplet.
Ooh.
Well, the cat's a critic. Cat just left my lap. Let's see. So I wanted to read some new work here. I did a collection actually that was that I self-published in 2017 called Liquid Perishable Hazardous, encouraged in self-publishing by I guess Oregon's poet laureate, Stafford, right? The young Stafford. So then after putting together the collection, I did this one. It's called The First Poem He Wrote After Finishing the Collection. Oops, I left out the Wampahoofuses. And though I tried to get in the heart-wrenching pain of being alive, I wasn't good enough to goose each reader to pure joy, tears, ecstasy. You can't just say these things. Poetry isn't like free beer. It sneaks up like regret or a Genko pressed in an old book, a message from your younger self saying, don't despair. I am with you always. You are good enough. Whatever was left out is still here, remembered as if for the first time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Congratulations on the self-published book too, and for getting your second shot. So, way to go. Let's welcome our next poet, Ingrid Wendt.
Hello, everybody. And hello, Michael. I haven't seen you in years. I think we first met when you were managing or you were directing Lit Fuse, wasn't it? Up there in Titan, Washington. And you invited me on the basis of having read my poems, and I was just so honored and thrilled. It was my first time to do anything public after I'd had brain surgery the year before, and I was scared to death. And it went mostly pretty well. And what didn't go well, no one was gauche enough to tell me, but I knew. Most of it went pretty well. And it was remembering those times, and it's just incredible, not incredible, but it's kind of a wonderful synchronicity, Michael, that you should be here, because I've just been rewriting and reworking a poem that I wrote about rehab, having gone through rehab after brain surgery. It was a benign tumor, but it was messing with me big time. And so this is a springtime poem. Sorry, Tom, I kind of forgot your assignment to bring poems about poetry, but it's about spring.
That's
So
good. It was just a suggestion too.
So, and it's also about a kind of a resurrection of sorts. So the poem is titled Requiem with Rhododendrons. Requiem is also I sing in choral groups, and I have done for many, many years and sung many requiems. So, but there's one that I didn't know until just shortly before my brain surgery. Requiem with Rhododendrons. When, after 3 weeks mostly in bed, except when I wasn't learning to stand on my own, and then to step with walker, and then with cane, to put one undependable foot in front of the other, to navigate under the strictest supervision all those long, too shiny halls. When, after weeks of meals with patients whose brains, like mine, were swollen, whose very essence had been exposed, if not by the nimble fingers of surgeons, then by the Judas of their own dear bodies. When, after night on endless night at the beck and call of my vital signs, and the constant need of the constantly shifting staff to read them, allowing me 2 hours sleep at a time, unable to dream. When, after one small part of the self I used to be crept into the room, looking for the long-lost garden of song, and asked for Andrew Lloyd Webber's Requiem, after Placido Domingo's Hosanna, nightly through earphones, filled to overflowing that vast, newly opened space at the base of my skull. Just when I knew for sure I needed nothing more, a volunteer rolled away a stone I hadn't even seen. and wheeled me out the door and into a campus green enfolded in the giant red blossoms of rhododendron. Tears that for so many years had been inaccessible, not even when one of my best friends died. Tears all on their own started to rise. Hosanna, spilled over, Hosanna, in tune with every newly opened cell of my soul, in tune with blossoms, praising the ever-lengthening sun. And I, certain as never before of what someday lies ahead, knew also what lay behind, the tomb of the unassailable heart. Qui venit in nomine Domini, tell me, what am I to do with so much love? And then the next one is a total change of pace. And I was kind of hoping that Susan Parashon would be here tonight, because in November, she posted something on Facebook that struck a chord. She posted a picture of a crown that you can buy online, and it brought back memories of my daughter and something she said once. And so I bought this crown for her. She's almost 50. I brought this crown for her for Christmas, and then I wrote a poem to go with it. So here's a poem that goes with it. In a kingdom long, long ago, is that the title? It's also the first line of the poem. In a kingdom long, long ago, parents always knew the right thing to say at the very right time. And how they did that, I'll never stop envying, like tonight. Seeing the very first star, remembering another early evening when you, Punkin, were maybe 5, and I handed down a practice chock full of the possible. Look, I said, the first star, make a wish, which you did. Mommy, you whispered, is there a crown on my head? Will this mother of yours, who should have been quicker, who could have said, oh, wow, it's glowing. Oh no, there it goes. Will this stumbling mother ever stop wishing she'd known a way to keep that luminous moment intact? And just as she's trying to figure out how to write this without being maudlin, you text from 3 time zones to the east to share, quote, sick swan is saved after 23-mile odyssey by foot, car, and subway. Heart, I click. Wow, I write. Good night, dear princess. Good night. That was fun.
Oh, thank you so much, Ingrid.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
for
And thank you for this opportunity. And Tom, you were reciting this litany of all the people to thank for this event, you know, and you didn't thank yourself, so we will. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm in the Milwaukie Poetry Series, but appreciate it. Our next poet is Carolyn Wright.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks very much. I hope my internet connection seems to be a bit wonky at the moment, so I hope it holds. Yeah, this is the 3rd of 4 meetings today, so I think my internet connection is getting tired, but let's see how it goes. I want to thank Michael for reading a poem with the word numinous in it, because it just so happened that I chose for my first poem a poem with the word numinous in it. And it's from my This Dream the World New and Selected Poems, which looks like this, the reading copy with all the pieces of Post-it notes. Okay, it's called Lake Devereux Kingdom. It's a lake on the Kitsap Peninsula. and I went there with a friend years ago named Linda Edling. We turn the battered inquisitor's eye on. Night reeds whisper, then pipe down. Frogs dig green elbows in the ooze, scrabble toward a getaway. After midterm, only the bull toads sit, squat and numinous and Nubian potent, belches booming over the still lake like proclamations, courtiers' palms on drums. Don't rock the dock, we whisper. Flick flashlights off. We won't bump thin-skinned subjects from the kingdoms of their logs. Let them go, damp coats spotted and striped as mandrake roots by wells. We'll wait, watch the star-crammed sky tremble with portent. Note a bat flit out on sonar to meet armies of insects assembling in dark. If we doze, warnings will rise and fall like swells of pondweed fingering our sleep. Awake, we'll wait for the lake to part like a mouth in surprise, for the stifled boomings of the toad tribe's flight, chariots off the highway clanking after, mud on their wheels grinding the treads to a halt. I hope that came through all right. Let's see. I'm going to go to a poem that is going to be in my next book, which is coming out later this year. It's called Yes, Frog Power. Thank you, Teal. A journal of Catholic poetry. I think they mean Catholic as in universal, but also as in like, the Pope in Rome. But this is a poem. This was an issue published last year on the theme of forgiveness. And this poem actually was featured yesterday on Verse Daily. And it got a lot of reaction. And I think it's pretty relevant in this era of Black Lives Matter. It's called I Forgive. I forgive my left hand for not hitting back when Roy Otis's big hand slapped the glasses off my face. And I forgive my left arm for not rising to block his open palm coming toward me. I forgive my right hand for dialing 911, for hanging up when he yelled, "No!" And I heard the wanted man's terror in his voice. I forgive my ears for hearing the patrol car roll up a minute later and screech to a stop. I forgive my eyes for watching two beefy cops burst through the grillwork door and straddle the front room's floorboards. Roy Otis, gray-faced with fear between them. I forgive my heart for being glad. When the white cop shifted his grip and demanded, "What do we do with him, lady?" I forgive my tongue for saying, "Let him go."
Ooh.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Congratulations on that being a featured poem yesterday,
you.
too.
Congratulations on writing it.
Yeah, I can see why I got a lot of comment. Yeah, thank you.
And the
The next
ones
poem-
before and after it in the manuscript
Great. So thank you. Our next poet is Aaron Clay,
Hey,
and you're
well, so
welcome.
I don't have a lot of my own stuff. My favorite that I've been looking for days. It was on a YouTube video and it was called The End of the Day and the Lights Are Out. And I was just remember being like really sad when I wrote that, and it was really good. However, the lyrics were on a YouTube video. I have them somewhere else and I'd have to transcribe. But what I wanted to do, if it's okay, is so there's an old folk song called Old Blue, and
Mhm.
I wanted to try to, I guess, like get out of my comfort zone just a little and sing it a cappella.
Yeah,
Nice.
go.
All
Yeah,
right.
go for it.
Well, I had an old dog and his name was Blue. Yes, I had an old dog and his name was Blue. Well, I had an old dog and his name was Blue. Bet you $5 he's a good dog too. Old Blue chased a possum up a hollow. Blue chased a possum up a hollow. Blue chased a possum up a hollow limb. Possum growled, Blue whined to him. Bye bye, Blue, you good dog, you. Bye bye, Blue, you good dog, you. When old Blue died, he died so hard, shook the ground in my backyard. We lowered him down with a golden chain, and every link we called his name. Bye bye, Blue, you good dog, you. Bye bye, Blue, you good dog, you. My old Bluey was a good old hound. You could hear him hollering for miles around. When I get to heaven, first thing I'll do is grab my horn and call for Blue. Bye bye, Blue, you good dog, you. Bye bye, Blue, you good dog, you.
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for doing that.
yeah,
That was great.
yeah.
That's a song I'm familiar with.
Oh,
So
cool. I didn't know a lot
yeah,
of people were.
yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that before.
Oh,
But thank you for doing it.
Th-
Thank you for wanting to do it and then stepping
Thank
up.
you.
Yeah. Do you have another one you want to do?
Um,
Or another reading? We're reading two poems. Or
yeah, I can do, let me see. A lot of people like Bob, I usually do Bob Dylan. I just a lot of the times if it's Bob Dylan versus someone else, I'm gonna do a Bob Dylan cover. It's just how it goes. So I will do, and I did it earlier, but I guess I'm trying to be more of a singer. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like I got Hound Dog down, which I could do Hound Dog instead. But like I'll go to like Blues Night. Um, but I'm trying to like have like at least like a baseline of like 10 songs that I know by memory. But
Sure.
anyway,
Well, Bob Dylan would be good because Bob Dylan did win the Nobel Prize.
huh? Yeah, let me pull that up. All right. Mama, take this badge from me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. Feels like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door, yeah. Mama put my guns in the ground. I can't shoot them anymore. That cold black cloud's coming down. Feels like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank
That's,
you.
yeah, nice choice too. So
Tom, I have to go to the board meeting now.
you have to go, okay?
Yeah, but I wanted to thank everybody. I just really enjoyed all of it so much, and it was so nice seeing you and getting to know you a little and hear your work. So
Yeah.
sorry I have to leave.
Okay, okay. We'll see you, Jan.
Thank
Glad,
you.
yeah, glad you were here.
Me too. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
We'll see you again soon.
Okay, great.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
I'm going to read my two poems, and I have two pieces that are about poetry and were in my latest book, the Giving Thanks book. So, and I'll tell you that when I was a kid, I don't know if you remember modern libraries, but I got into, I started to collect when I was a kid, modern library books. And then you could get a classic, I remember, for $1.65. And I thought that was great. So this is my first connection with poetry. And there's a little bit about the modern library in this. The cards lay face up on the square green folding table, usually reserved for bridge. The game today was authors: Dickens, Austen, Twain, Tolstoy, Chekhov, Longfellow. Mother occupied herself in the kitchen, selecting the correct ingredients for the dinner meatloaf. Split pea soup simmering on the stove, potatoes baking in tinfoil in the oven. It was too late to change my salt and pepper school cords for evening jeans, too early for TV, too near dinner for a walk. Who was Longfellow, I wondered, as I pulled my mother's poetry book from the bookcase. Leafing through the book, I came upon the Song of Hiawatha, Evangeline, finally Paul Revere's Ride. I wish I could say I fell in love with Longfellow that day, or was in fellowship with poetry. We did finish our game of authors, and I even learned who Tennyson was as well. Years later, we happened upon a traffic jam near Cascade Locks, Oregon, on I-84. We were stopped. As I stepped out of the Sentra, the sun baked us to the swarmy blacktop. Cars ahead were backed up out of sight. I looked in the back seat, pulled out my collected works of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in a collector's modern library edition with the original dust jacket, and read some Evangeline. Important things stick with you. My first connection with poetry. And the second piece I want to read is that this is just title poetry. Poetry is a supremely suitable lover. She rides contentedly in the car for miles. She stands patiently, contemplating the bayou, eucalyptus hanging to the stagnant water. She's a friend as the serpent slips out from the mildew by the lilacs and slides up the bank. When I'm alone at night with a blaze in the fireplace, listening to the crickets, she stays up with me. She laughs when I see the yellow sign with an alligator image on it that reads, "No swimming." I can take her to a cocktail party as a sage and not worry about being embarrassed. When people ignore her benefits, she just hangs around without being offended. Poetry. Thank you very much. So are we ready to go on our second round? We're ready for one more round and we'll read a poem each. Okay. So we'd start with, since Jan's gone, Marilee, Jane Shelley, Michael Ingrid Teal.
My mouse doesn't work very well on this slick table. It keeps jumping around when I try to move it. Okay. Well, you get to be treated to another sonnet. This was something I do in the car when we're on long trips. And so this one is called US 6 and I-70 through Utah. I'd like to think that I could write some verse to entertain us on this endless drive. Some limericks, doggerel, or even worse, the rhymes on which an idle mind can thrive. Repeating lines of pantoum would be rich, as repetitious scenery bias streams. It keeps my mind raised to such fevered pitch that sleep can't tempt me with seductive dreams. As God's creation looms beyond our car, from shoulder to horizon, rock to rim, majestic canyons, valleys, peaks afar, I think instead I'll write a sacred hymn. But ere I spend much time reflecting on it, I find my casual musings birthed a sonnet. Thank you, and thank you, Tom, for hosting us.
Thank you for the sonnet too. That was fun.
Thank you.
And now Jane.
Last Days by Mary Oliver. Things are changing. Things are starting to spin, snap, fly into the blue sleeve of the long afternoon, and oh, come whistling out of the perished mouth of grass as things turn soft and boil back into substance and hue. As everything, forgetting its own enchantment, whispers, I too love oblivion. Why not? It is full of second chances. Now hiss the bright curls of the leaves. Now booms the muscle of the wind. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to dance that one.
Yeah, Jane said she wanted to dance that one. And we have done movement to poems when we could get together, especially at the Poetry in the Park.
Yeah.
So Shelley?
Yeah. This is another poem from the chapbook. It surprised me. It's called The Last Hunt. Quail have bodies too heavy for small wings that leave a circle of fluted marks in snow. Some miracle of cold holds them up. I walk the late day hedgerows, a hunter in the snow, dreaming, quail have bodies too heavy for small wings. The steel of my shotgun, the coldest blue, froze my hands to memories of why quail fly. Some miracle of cold holds them up. Weeds grow where fences and hedgerows meet, where I lifted lead boots to cross. Quail have bodies too heavy for small wings. They make two-note calls in a major key and send a sentry to distract. Some miracle of cold holds them up. The beauty of bob whites dancing in air lays my gun to rest on my arm for good. Quail have bodies too heavy for small wings. Some miracle of cold holds them up. Thank you.
I guess I was muted. Thank you, Shelley.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
It was a surprise, you said?
Well, yeah, it's a sort of major decision in my life, and it just, and the world, it was that day that I went hunting was so beautiful, and the bobwhite quail flushing as from the brush it was all overwhelming, and the decision just came on me. I laid down the gun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks for writing and sharing it with us.
Yes, yes,
More people
Yeah.
need to have that kind of epiphany.
yes, right.
Powerful
Yeah.
poem.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And was
Yeah.
it was in some kind of form, I think, because I heard a lot of repetitions.
It's a villanelle.
Okay. I thought,
Okay.
Subtle villanelle, though.
yes, yes.
Yeah. It didn't seem over. The repetition didn't overwhelm it.
What's that line about the body and the wings?
Oh, quail have bodies too heavy for small wings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's powerful.
Okay.
And that was the realization that started it.
Powerful, very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael?
Was it Teal who came before me last time, or do you want me to go now?
Could have been.
Well,
I've got you, Teal, Ingrid, and Carolyn.
okay, no problem.
And then
And the phone.
we have a landline, but I'm going to mute my.
Okay. So this is called license. At the Department of Poetic License, you can't take a number. The queue follows you. Applicants declaim from the roof. There's a lady who's worked there since God was in short pants, whose only job is to wear a listening expression and smile knowingly. The department head is an ass. Assistant head a heel. Their affair torrid. The janitor waxes the yellow linoleum, her landing strip, eloquent. At the Department of Poetic License, they've never issued a license without first nitpicking lice and sense, becoming incensed over nonsense like assonance. The department is a senseless non sequitur. It has never issued any kind of license at all, not to kill, nor create, nor to indulge in sesquipedalian fancies too syllabic to scrunch into a single poetic line. All the department functionaries have ceased functioning. They loll about, fingertips steepled, eyes wide shut, dreaming technicolor verse so risque that any bureaucrat in his right brain could never rubber stamp their droll ejaculations. The Department of Poetic License works at births, weddings, overtime at divorces, deaths, and lonely holidays. Death is a specialty requiring obfuscation, euphemism, extended metaphor, ginger deployment of the sticky cliche, soul. Occasionally, the pachyderms filed under Z for insanity bust out mid-funeral oration, stomp mourners into the dust or mud or frozen earth, leaving steaming turds in their wake. It's a dangerous business, which is why it cannot be entrusted to licensed professionals, why the clerks jealously guard the departmental seal whose breath reeks of herring, whose whiskers drop octopus entrails, whose brown eyes brim with the wisdom of denial. At the Department of Poetic License, you may write your own ticket, but be forewarned. To speak the world, you must see it. To see the world is the strongest hallucinogen. A terrible beauty is born, said Yeats. It will scour and crater your heart. Sign here.
Wow.
Whoa.
Thanks.
Sure thing.
Yeah. What's the title again?
License.
License.
That,
Okay.
that's serious delight and delightful seriousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Ingrid.
So I have Teal, Ingrid, Carolyn, and me.
Well, after that, I hesitate to raise a Yeats reference, but
Do it.
this is a rewrite of Yeats's Sailing to Byzantium, so it's titled Sailing to Byzantium, but with quotes, so you know it's not the original. This is no country for old women. We are cast aside, forgotten, no use made of any part above the womb. You see or choose to not see us as beauty fades. There is a certain way that makes us free, no more a mother, never more a maid, we shed becoming pallor, set sail in sun and open boats for old Byzantium. Discarded wisdom and derided looks within these holy walls are held like gold where women's words are kept in sacred books. What years are left to us will here unfold with gentle weaving. Little enough we took. Few earthly goods were carried in our holds when we made pilgrimage to our last home, when we set off for old Byzantium. So let it be, the world will go its way, a rowdy river rushing past the bank where sisters three repose above the fray, who spin, who weave, who cut. We ask no thanks and no remembrance, only let our days run out in peace. Oh, all the wine we drank in younger days is gone, so lay my bones beneath the soil of old Byzantium.
Wow. Thank you very much for that.
You're too young to have such deep understanding of old age, my dear. You've got it.
Wow. Ingrid.
Okay. I remembered a poem about poetry and about writing poetry. So one of those times that you saw my rose-breasted nuthatch, I was printing this up. And it's not in any book yet, but it's an old one. The Simple Truth, and there's a quote by Rilke, "Write only if you must," which used to give me a lot of trouble. The simple truth, not often this luxury, hours of writing time blessedly stretching, bright tail of a comet over my desk. This is kind of a follow-up on what Teal was saying about womanhood, because we didn't always have too much luxury time to write. I've got more of it now. Start over. Not often this luxury, hours of writing time blessedly stretching, bright tail of a comet over my desk, this invitation to hop aboard and ride, look down at my words from some stratospheric perspective, time to say what I see and be clear. Still, some days I'll do almost anything else, wander the house, tackle the ironing, dusting. I'll shuffle this pile of papers, those books, to another more sensible place, as though the hand could fix what the eye cannot. A way to tend to all sides of each case, as if waiting that underground river might lead to one word joining all versions, all multiple impulses, all known ways of perceiving. And what do I get? Tributaries silting the honest depths of feeling. One of my therapist friends no doubt has a name for this. Yesterday, speaking of clients, she used the word closure, meaning what you aim for when something is still unresolved. How I envy her strict vocabulary. Words like signposts, lighthouses. With them, Some people know where they are and go on. How I would like to call myself constant, faithful. To know if this is obsession or really the simple truth knocking to get back into the world. One shining leap out of water that doesn't fall back. One trail of a shooting star visible clear to the end. How, like a child spelling the secret of sparklers letter by letter, I would write all of its bright golden name in the air. So that's the simple truth.
Wow. Thank you.
It's fun to
Strict
write.
vocabulary.
It's fun to
I
write.
love the strict vocabulary.
Thanks.
Yeah. Carolyn?
All right. Hello. Thank you. Thank you once again. And thanks for all your poems. I don't have a poem that, quite responds as Numinous did, but there's an alter ego in my life, kind of like that cat on Michael's lap, the poetic cat. Her name is Eulene. And she used to be my alter ego, but now I am, some of you may have heard me say that I am a holographic projection of Eulene. So let Eulene speak here. This poem is called, and it's in the final section of the new and selected, which is it's from Mania Klepto, the Book of Eulene. And this particular poem, this particular misadventure of Eulene's is called Conjure Eulene. A borrowed thought drifts through her sleep. Its neglected owner wants her to return it, sends her overdue slips, threatens to let her synapses go out of print. She wakes to find her hands scribbling illegible replies on IOU slips no believable characters could get away with. The next reply will write itself, dispense with hands altogether. Where will Eulene fit? The thought expands. She shrinks, a jot shaken from a fountain pen onto the blank plane of the page. She can't see how far away the margins of books have moved, blue as the elbows of rivers. That's when the thought takes after her, starving for attention, a fugitive of leash laws. She can't keep it at memory's length. It clambers up the steep banks of the paragraphs, its jaws dead set. Soon, the thought will wake Eulene in the odd hours, spread remaindered fingers at the moon, dangle its Damoclean handcuffs. The crack in her forehead will widen to an eye and stare straight out at eternity in wonder. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much on that, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah. I saw too that Michael had the cat left and then the cat came back, as cats do. I've got one. This is the word that is a bridge. I would love to calculate how many times a minute around the world people say it. 500 times a second maybe, in boulevard cafes, thatched bungalows, Mongolian yurts. Love is flexible as a rubber band, strong as a steel rod. People mean different things when they say it. I would love to go to Mexico City with you, she said, as raindrops pattered on the Chevy's Malibu's metallic roof. I look at the condition of the world, and I know that 500 times a second isn't enough. It needs to be 5,000 times, a million, enough to get the job done. It should be said as many times as possible. Love is a bridge over the gulfs and ravines of misunderstanding. Love is the music of life. Love is a verb as well as a noun. Love is aimless as a book by Billy Collins. Love is an unchained melody to the heart. Love is caring for your family, a flower from the garden, a tonic, salve, bandage, palliative, medicine, antibiotic. Love is a trumpet blast of salvation. Love spreads warmth like a radiator. Love tastes sweet like ambrosia, intoxicating in its fragrance. Love is foolish. He fell in love today for the umpteenth time. Love is all and in all. Love is the bridge we need to walk continuously. The word that is a bridge. So, thank you very much for your poems. If everybody wants to unmute themselves, give yourselves, shall we give ourselves a hand? If we would, please.
Yeah.
Yay for us.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Yes, yes, yes.
Great to be here tonight.
Hooray for
Yeah,
poetry.
this
Hooray for
has
Nice to
poets.
see
been a
everybody.
very rich evening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you,
Thanks so
everybody.
much. Yeah,
Let us go
Tom.
forward. Let us go forward in love, as Tom says.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Good-
Our
good
next,
Eastern poetry.
a week from tonight is Claudia Savage's reading. So that's the next reading in the Milwaukie Poetry Series. So they're all virtual now, but it's going to be live streamed on the Blending Library YouTube channel. So you register for it by zipping me an email. And I mentioned earlier that the next open mic is May 7th, the first Friday. So I'll get an email out from that. And keep writing and celebrating National Poetry Month. That's for sure. We need to celebrate it all the time, but especially in April.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Good
Thank
night.
you,
Thank you.
Pat.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Okay.
Thanks for all your work.